Welcome to the Tiny House Talk Show. I'm Damon.
And I'm Natalie.
And today we're diving into a hot topic, what the real cost of building a tiny house is. Natalie, what's the number one thing that people don't recognize or realize when they embark on their tiny house journey?
Usually people don't immediately think about the hidden expenses, the unexpected expenses. Usually they're just thinking about the base cost of the home, and they're not thinking about land, permits, transportation, delivery, utility hookups. All of those can kind of blindside people.
Yeah, they can add up, can't they?
Yes.
So today we're going to break this into 4 segments: creating a budget, hidden cost to watch out for, and DIY versus professional builds, budget-friendly tips for maximizing space will be our last segment that we'll talk about today. So let's kind of dive in there. So let's get started. Segment number 1, creating a realistic tiny house budget. Let's break down the basic costs of structure, materials, labor. What should people expect when setting a budget for a tiny house? Boy, we could spend an hour just on this by ourselves. One of the biggest things, I've got some notes written here. So let's talk about first DIY builds versus hiring a professional. Obviously, hiring a professional is going to cost more because that professional has a price tag for their skills, their tools, their knowledge, and their labor.
Correct.
And then second, DIY, you build the sweat equity, you save, probably half in some cases, maybe more, the cost of building a house by doing it all yourself. But, to reset the frame of expectations, you can see it done in a TV show in one episode, and they say it takes 7 days. And we were told many moons ago when we were on those television shows that when asked, hey, you're kind of setting a false expectation here that somebody can build a house in 7 days. And they says, the director at that time of that production company said, hey, you guys call it reality television. We just call it television.
Right.
And that was a lesson learned from that moment, wasn't it?
Yes.
I never looked at another reality show the same way.
Nope.
I digress. So DIY kind of gives you some cost savings there, but does come at the disadvantage of your time is utilized building a house instead of other things. So if you have a job, if you have a household, if you have a family, a pet, hobbies, those are all going to see less of you, aren't they?
Right.
Talk about some of the custom features. Like, what are the things that can drive that cost up or down?
Definitely your window choices, your door choices, your siding. That could be a big one.
Yeah.
With windows, I know that there can be, kind of a good, better, best.
Right. Most brands do have kind of an entry level, a mid level,
There's
and a top end.
Sorry.
That's
something clicking.
That's my chair. I'm doing my best.
Okay.
I'll try not to move. Most brands do have a good, better, best type of pricing arrangement for it. You can get $200 windows or you can get $2,000 windows.
Right.
It just depends on what your budget is and what your needs and wants are.
Right.
What else? What are some other things?
Some other things, cabinet choices inside, that can make a big difference. Even at the very beginning of the process, when you're trying to pick whether you want to do your sheathing with OSB or with the zip system, that's a right there. That's the first.
It's 2x the cost to go to the green board over the OSB.
Right,
isn't
but
it?
that might be really important to you. Maybe where your house is going to be. Maybe that makes a big difference to you. But that's a pretty early on in the stages.
That's at the
choice.
That's at the shell.
Yep.
That's one of those. Do you want brand A or do you want brand B?
Yeah.
That doesn't change. Just so everybody out there knows, you will have lots and lots of decisions to make along the way.
Yeah.
Apologize for my stool clicking. It's getting loose here at the bottom, and I probably should have tightened it up before we sat down to do this because I talk with my whole body. I can't help it. So I'm going to spend the rest of this episode driving Natalie insane with the chair creaking under me. You're welcome. So, in fact, I'm going to try and see if we can't resettle this thing, make it crack and creak a little less. What about appliances? That's one thing that people really, you either hit it right on the nose or you miss it wildly.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Your appliances, not only do you have costs that you have to factor in, you've got sizes that you have to factor in on that.
What it's going to run on.
What it's going to run. whether you're doing gas or electric. I mean, these are all decisions that have to be made.
AC power versus DC power appliances, gas-fired appliances versus electric only. All of these are choices that have to be made depending on how you're going to build your home.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be, totally off-grid and self-sustained, then you want to look at those types of appliances that do have multiple fuel sources. So electricity is source A, and whether that's AC power or DC power, say from solar versus shore power where you plug it in, or propane,
Mm-hmm.
LP, CNG, I think is another one that they can use. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't have a lot of experience with gas-fired refrigerators, but
right.
They do exist.
Yeah.
We had one in our fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We never ran it on LP, I don't think, not once.
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think so. So that's definitely a conversation to have with somebody else on our team besides you or I. I don't think that we don't have the chops to talk about gas-fired appliances. Yeah.
No, no.
So the thing that I notice is when, especially appliances and windows, because they're so different in spectrum and price. An appliance, you can get a $400 refrigerator, or you can get a $2,500 refrigerator that's, fantastic, but it just depends on your budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how much you're going to be using that, how many people are going to use it. So all of those things, it's like once you answer a question, it brings another question up and another question up and another question up.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, get discouraged.
I think it's overwhelming. And, you do have to make all of these decisions. And that might be the actual number one thing that people do not think about when they're building a tiny is really how many decisions you have to make.
Boy, that's the truth.
About light switches and everything.
Yeah.
Sinks, drawer pulls if you have them. I mean, it's all down. I mean,
where your windows go.
Yeah.
Just something that's step one.
Yeah.
Where am I going to put holes in the walls so light comes in and air comes in?
Yeah. Building a tiny house is a journey of decisions.
It is. It's like death by 1,000 questions. All right, let's slip into segment number 2, hidden costs and what to watch out for. The hidden costs people don't think about, like permits, land development, utility hookups. Let's go through some of those. Septic systems or leach fields, those things can become very, very expensive. And, here in Colorado, they run anywhere from 4,000 and, on up to I've seen 30 and 40,000. I've seen 10 times that for septic systems and sewer systems. And that's if you're in a remote area where you have a piece of land, the county requires you to put in, a septic system in a leach field. That's expensive.
Yeah.
The excavator comes out. They have to be a licensed excavator. You have to pull a permit for that. You have to get a soil sample before you can dig to see if that soil will percolate, to see if you can put down. So testing the soil, testing how it handles water and overflow. And then you go down the rabbit hole of the sewer or the septic system. And that's just that one thing on the land. There's electric, there's egress, driveways, and anchoring, and foundation types. And boy, it's a wormhole. And
it gets overwhelming quick.
And you can find yourself in an unknown dimension very, very quickly.
Yep.
So we're here to help you with that case by case. So if you're one of our clients, or if you're just one of our listeners and you have some questions and you need help, please reach out to us. We're happy to give you a hand as best we can. We understand pretty full backwards and forwards Colorado law, now around setting homes and being compliant, but we don't necessarily have all 50 states and all of their county jurisdictions committed to memory, but we can help at least get you pointed in the direction where you can do that research, or we'll help you with that.
Yeah.
Some examples. Let's talk about like utility hookups, electric. Do you remember several years ago, you and I were driving around on the truck over in the Boulder area in Erie, and that piece of land, there was a piece of land there, and it was
at the end of town.
Yeah. It was north of town. It's about 8 acres. It was a perfect home site for a tiny home community.
Mm-hmm. It's perfect.
It was zoned back in the 60s for that use for a mobile home park. And there were 50 some odd lots, if I recall. And they were 25 wide by like 50 or 60 deep, I think, and 52 or 53 lots in kind of a really cool little cul-de-sac. And that had all been recorded on the county back in like the 60s.
Yep.
And we called the county. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
Share what we heard when we asked about things.
Really just a kind of complete dismissal of why would they need to even think about something like that when they had so many years worth of residential homes to build, more traditional building. They didn't even need to think about that. Yeah, we were pretty much just dismissed and brushed off. And
he said, first you need to spend about $1.5 million to get the bridge up above grade, move it above grade by 4 feet. And then I remember him saying we had to pull in a bunch of that dirt and get it above, because what had happened in 2012, that became part of a FEMA floodplain. Mm-hmm. And before that, it was like a 500 or 1,000 year floodplain or something. And now it's a 5 year. So to be able to put something with wheels on it was going to be a fantastic solution and maybe negate some of that flood insurance cost for those property owners. So we went for it, right? We called the town, we did our due diligence. We let the owner know that we were interested in the property. And then we met the city planner.
Yeah.
Who hit us with $1.5 million to move the bridge up above, some municipal tenant improvement. The next thing was curbing and sidewalks. Mm-hmm. So we got to put that in, which we understand that's part of development. But then I said, well, let's talk about sewer and water taps. He goes, oh. I remember the scoff he gave us. I'm like, wow, man. So he gave us a scoff. Well, if you do all that, it was like between sewer and water tap, it was like $45,000 per address.
It's crazy.
And I said, there's no way I can't amortize this into a $70,000 tiny home purchase. No matter what I do, it just doubled the cost of it. Yep. Hooking water and sewer up to it. It was bananas. Yeah. So that's an example that we can share where we wanted to build a tiny home community on a perfect piece of land in a great area in a town that is pretty open to tiny homes. We know lots in that area that are out in the county that we've had a hand in building over the years. So we were kind of discouraged to know that town didn't really want them in that particular piece of land without getting their, I dare say, pound of flesh, but it was way more than a pound. It was like a whole thigh and everything below it, I feel like. Yeah. Let's talk about, let me get my notes back out here. Sorry, guys. Let's talk about zoning laws and inspections and those kinds of things. We bring Noah into that conversation. Why don't you speak to that just a little bit?
And depending on where you are going to be parking your tiny, that will depend on how you build it, whether you're going to build it to ANSI code, whether you're going to build it to IRC code, and you're going to need a certification process that you're going to go through with that. So you'll need a seal.
Aren't you?
Yeah. So, and obviously there's going to be people who choose to, just kind of be
boondock it.
Yeah.
I mean,
out about.
We sold literally thousands of trailers to people who have no certification nor plan to. Many don't even have them titled or registered.
Right.
We won't name drop, but we better get some Christmas cards or we'll start blackmailing you folks.
But
we're just kidding.
It is much more common and much more expected now to get some sort of seal on your home. And you can go with NOAA, which does ANSI and IRC, or you can do PacWest. They do ANSI, and then there's NTA, and they are IRC.
They're full spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah, they do it all. They do HUD. They do all of it.
And, if we are building a whole house from beginning to end, doing the entire thing, we are certified now to be able to give NOAA seals. So that's a really wonderful thing that we've gone through. Really tough process for.
We do IRC. We do IRC modular, and we do ANSI 1192 and 1195. So tanks or no tanks for RVs, and we do IRC prefab or factory built. Yeah. Permanent set.
So, and if you start the process with us, and we only build part of it, we document that so that you have all of that, because you will build and have that relationship with PacWest or with NOAA. That will be between you and them, but we will provide you documentation on those so you have that.
Yeah, and that's important to know. We kind of give you the baton. We're in a relay race with you. If you want us to build some of it, but not all of it, and you want to finish the inside, maybe put your stamp on it, make it yours. That's what we will hand it off at the place where you ask us to. A lot of people one of the really popular models is either an unfinished or a finished exterior. And this is on a trailer. So just so we're clear. So on a tiny house on wheels, finished or unfinished exterior,
right.
but definitely a stood up, dried in shell, windows and doors in, maybe rough in the plumbing, electrical, and mechanical, and then spray foam it and then hand it off. Mm-hmm. Because that lets the client still be able to do a whole lot of that work on their own,
right.
Build that sweat equity and save that money.
Right.
You'll want to make sure that you let us know or your builder know up front if you're going to do that. If you're going to build alongside, like we just described, if you're going to build alongside us, for example, we'll hand you the information off to Noah for the finish line, and they'll inspect it through each part of the process that you finish with.
Right.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about DIY versus professional for segment number 3. What's more cost effective? I say we get a lot of questions about DIY versus, hiring a pro. And I'm kind of on the fence. It really kind of depends. What's your skill set? What's your time budget?
Mm-hmm. What's
your, financial budget? That's very important. And, we get a lot of, I guess, help me weigh the pros and cons, because we are a builder and we also service DIY clients. So we're in a bit of a unique situation where, we don't want to try and talk somebody into something,
right.
No. but we also don't want to leave them hanging in the wind,
right.
Just flying, flailing about trying to figure out, say, electrical, something that they don't want to tackle themselves, maybe. All in, it's not that much saved, I don't think. Do you? If you consider time, and time is money mm-hmm. for everyone. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
Time is money. It might be a little bit of money. It might be a whole lot of money, but time is money to everyone. So there is a cost in the DIY segment to do that yourself versus hiring a pro.
I think it really comes down to the parts that you want to do, or that you feel confident and you feel like, I can do this and I want to do this, versus the parts of it that you absolutely do not want to do.
Right.
And I think that's different for everybody.
I don't like plumbing.
Yep. You don't like plumbing. I personally think that electricity and wiring is wizard's work, and I want none of it.
Wizard at your service.
Yep.
I've got no problem with electrical, and I don't understand for the life of me what
and
plumbing
is. And I've grown up with plumbing my whole life. How great is that?
It's amazing that, I forget who is it. I don't know. One of the guys can't stand sheetrock.
Oh.
So everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
We all have a thing that we just absolutely don't want to do.
And I'll share with people, we'll do as little or as much as you want,
right,
and what fits into your budget.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a nice way to present that. So people can, if they want to have a part in that, want to have a hand, they can. If they don't, you don't have to.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, unless you really have some skills, going the DIY route isn't really going to save you a ton of money, because it's going to take you exponentially longer than it will the pros. You have to learn it first and then go do it. And unless you nail it on the first go, you may have to go back and revise it or redo it in order to get it where you want it to be while learning on the job, so to speak. So weigh the pros and cons effectively, I guess, and make sure that you're thoughtful in your adventure, because everybody thinks that they're going to build a tiny house in a couple of 3 months.
Right.
But I don't know anybody that takes less than a year.
I haven't seen that.
Out on the DIY side, Jared Tachi, we've mentioned him a couple times. And if you haven't seen his channel, it's his name, TOCCIJARROD, Jared Tachi. Ghost Design and Build. He's a van lifer who went tiny and built his tiny house, rented a storage unit or like a shop. Mm-hmm. He didn't, was indoors for the Boston winter all season while he was building his tiny house. But he had to extend his 1-year lease because it was just him and occasionally his dad. But most of the time, and this is all chronologued on his channel, guys. So if you want to see, the anguish, the pain and suffering, the thrill of victory and and suffering during defeat, you can watch Jared go through this. Built a fantastic tiny home, but it kicked his butt, and he's admitted that a couple of times. I way underestimated this, and had I known, I just should have asked more questions. I would have absolutely let you guys do so much more of this than I tackled.
Yeah.
So.
if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're listening to this, you're not through your build yet, share with us. Share with everybody something that you wish you had done yourself or something that you wish you had somebody else do. I think that hearing from other people on those experiences during their builds, that's hugely helpful.
And those are great comments to leave us in the comment section below. If you are a DIYer, give us your experience. Say, hey, I built my tiny house. It cost me $2,000. I did everything myself, and whatever the case is. But we'd love to hear your story. So please leave us a comment. Let's cruise into segment 4 here. Budget-friendly tips for maximizing space and style. This is important to every tiny houser because those are two very, very personalized things. They say the customer is always right, but only in matters of taste. So your style and how you want to store your stuff is really a matter of taste, isn't it? So let's talk about how to keep those costs under control without sacrificing quality. What are some design or material choices that can help people stay within budget but still get a home they love? We talked about those before we started rolling. Like materials.
Oh, recycled materials.
Recycled materials is
huge.
one. I don't find that recycled materials, unless you're upcycling, if you're going in and scavenging, like really getting the thing, that market's kind of been muddied up a little. The people that are out kind of, buying reclaimed materials or reclaimable materials, there's a profession now. You drive around the Midwest and offer to knock down old barns and take the wood for free. It's bonkers because now that stuff's worth 10 or 15 bucks a board foot in the right market. It's really kind of gotten hard, I think, to find quality materials at a fair price in that recycled or upcycled world. But if you can, man, good job. You've struck gold. Yeah. What else? Some of the other things that you talked about, like metal siding is one. Speak to that just a little bit.
So whether you're picking like LP Smart Side versus metal siding, there's a pretty big difference in the price there.
Metal siding can run from, $5 a foot to $12.50 a foot, depending on if it's, a sheet good like an inexpensive PBR or legacy panel. That's a common name of that profile, how that shape is. Those come in whatever length by 42 or 36-inch panels versus standing seam or our personal favorite in house is the board and batten design, which is a standing seam but hidden fastener, and it's also clipless. So it's not terribly difficult to put up, but it's double the cost of panels. It's up there with that LP Smart Side price, but it also produces that LP Smart Side kind of look. It's really, really good looking. So sheet metal's one, wood's another. There's several ways you can kind of control up or down the cost. Yeah.
If you're a budget shopper, you're always looking for the deal. You're always looking for the thing that's on clearance, the thing that's on closeout. Obviously, you can check out like Habitat for Humanity. There's great deals to be had there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can find an old barn.
Old barn. I've seen people take, furniture pieces that they found at garage sales or estate sales, though, and turn those into their cabinets in their kitchen.
I've seen some multifunction furniture kind of repurposed out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just really depends on kind of what your style is and what you're going for and what your budget is.
And, design and layout too. Keep it simple, keep it functional. The more cool things that are done to the house, the more time of yours or money you spend to buy somebody else's time to do those things. So, keep that in line with the budget and don't have too many trapdoors and secret hobbit holes in the tiny house. So being smart with space, tell us a little bit about that. Like you're the Marie Kondo of Trailer Made, I think. So
am I?
I guess I'm not. You've seen my desk.
Yeah.
But talk about being smart with space either way.
Being smart with space can save a lot. For example, not needing to move walls or change any structural elements, that cuts down on your labor costs quite a bit. And I can give an example of like, if you're in the middle of the design process with Joe and he finalizes that design, and then 3 weeks later, you come back and that thing's already been sent out to the machine and it's already in process. And now you realize, oh, I want to move this one wall.
Change order.
Or I want to move this one window just 1 inch, really, really go through it with a fine-tooth comb before you say, okay, It's set. It's exactly the way I want it.
Everybody says that.
Because,
and then you check their unread emails whenever we say, please look over your prints. Please, please, please look over your prints. If everything is exactly where you want it, sign off and send it back to us. And they're so excited. You're so excited.
Yeah.
You're so excited to send them back to us and let's get started on your house that you didn't really look at them very well.
And if you need help with it,
and you know,
let us know. If you need someone to walk through it with you, we can do that.
Yes.
But it is expensive to make those changes especially after it's been sent out to the machine be printed. Oh my gosh.
Once we've started rolling steel framing, it's hard to move windows and doors and change walls. It's difficult and it's expensive. So it's good to know that stuff up front.
Yeah.
Smart design.
Thoughtful
planning. I would say if we do those things the right way, you're not spending that money going backwards and redoing something. Mm-hmm. That allows you to prioritize your money to be spent on more important things like quality siding, insulation, roofing materials, good HVAC, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, building a tiny house is an investment. It's an investment in your time. It's an investment in your emotions.
Yes.
And obviously your money. So it's all about being prepared and knowing the real costs and setting a budget that makes sense. So if you have those things in place, I think you can have a successful build with either your partner in the professional realm or as a do-it-yourselfer. What's your I don't know, let's knock it off here and let everybody get on with their day that they've made it this far. What's your final thought, the one thing that you would tell every tiny houser to pay the most attention to?
Thing to pay the most attention to.
Or what's the best piece of advice you could give?
Definitely my best piece of advice I can give is to take it one step at a time and to not get overwhelmed with all of the steps right at the beginning or even in the middle. It's so easy to kind of get overwhelmed and get ahead of yourself and start thinking about this thing when you haven't thought about that thing. And there's definitely a sequence that you have to think about it and make these decisions. And there is this moment, everybody has this moment when they get the trailer with their frame kit or it gets delivered to them. There's this
holy shit moment.
This shit just got real moment. And I just was talking to a customer the other day on the phone about this exact thing, that when that moment happens, it's okay. And just breathe through it. And know it's all going to be okay. And that there's an entire team here to help you get through this process. And you will get through this process. It's just one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed because getting overwhelmed just is paralyzing. I think my advice would be don't be so hardline on your budget for time and money. Yeah. You're going to take longer. In terms of time, it's going to take longer. Than you plan for. It's going to take longer than you expect. And budgeting, there's no room for surprises in budgeting. Yeah. So if you don't have your budget planned for a little bit of flexibility in that, then you haven't planned your budget correctly because you should plan to spend more than you think. Yeah. Sadly, that's the reality. Those two things I've seen derail somebody's otherwise wonderful, positive emotional experience building tiny homes. It starts being a little rocky when you run out of cash. Yeah. And you don't have your house built. Or motivation, goodness. Or you're out of paid time off or whatever, right? Yeah. So just be prepared for those things and, you'll have a successful build. If you have questions, give us a call. We're here. I think that's about it, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. All right. I think that's a wrap. That's a wrap. So thanks for tuning into the Tiny House Talk Show. Once again, I'm Damon. I'm Nadley. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us some questions or comments down below because we're starting to get some traction now. We have a milestone. We hit the 1,000. We hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to keep working hard to get more steady and better at this every time we do it. We're going to keep trying. So thank you all for your support, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.